I think the key takeaway I got from that, even though I do it, but just a reminder that as an appraiser doing appraisals, really go back to the policy and make sure it's in the policy and see what the policy says. We are going to welcome to the stage our next speaker, Randolph Love. Randolph Love.
How y'all doing? Amazing. I truly believe that all truths are parallel. Before you eat something, you need to know where the food comes from. Before you drink something, you need to know where the water comes from. The same goes when you're talking about the information that you're consuming. All right, so just so you know, my name is Randolph Love III. Yes, I am a licensed and bonded public insurance adjuster. That's the loophole that I used to get on stage, right? But prior to being a licensed and bonded public insurance adjuster, I was a State Farm agent. After hours, I did that for about 8 years. And every time I tell that to people here at this conference, they act as if I just told them my dog just died of cancer. They say, I'm sorry to hear that. And you know, it's all good, man. I got a love-hate relationship with them because they taught me a lot, I learned a lot, and I was able to use what I learned to the benefit of insurers, all right? I am a chartered financial consultant. I am a chartered life underwriter. I am a chartered property and casualty underwriter, and I'm a Federal Life Management Institute. Most people take, on average, about 3 to 5 years to earn each designation. I earned all of my designations in a matter of 9 months. It's because we all have certain things that we're good at, and certain things that make sense to us. Financial services and insurance, it just makes sense to me. I'm a registered pre-licensing and continuing education provider with the Florida Department of Financial Services. I've taught over 1,000 students in the past 12 months, from agents, from public insurance adjusters, from independent adjusters, staff adjusters, right? I provide training and consulting for corporate and federal, state, and local governing agencies. I assist individuals and business owners with effective tax minimalization wealth strategies. I have over 14 years experience in the insurance and financial services industry, and I am a franchise consultant with the Franchise Consulting Company, all right? And all I do is I apply all of that stuff in order to help people out. And once again, now that you know the source of information, let me get to the information, but I'm gonna dare to be different today and proudly proclaim I am not an attorney, right? Which is different than most of the people who got on this stage. And this is information, not advice. Take it as you will, all right? So, has anybody ever heard of ClickFunnels? Maybe you're into marketing, all right? So ClickFunnels is owned by somebody named Russell Brunson. It's a $500 million company. One of my mentors and business partners who I meet with at least once a month, and the person who taught me this is Russell Brunson's father, Ross Brunson. And when I first met Ross, he told me, he said, once again, all truths are parallel. He said, us as humans, we hate to be inconvenienced. We want to live, but we don't want to be inconvenienced by the rain. We don't want to be inconvenienced by the snow. We don't want to be inconvenienced by hail. So what did we do? We built a structure to protect us from those things, right? But we didn't just build a big one-room structure. We created different compartments inside of that structure that had different functions. You got a kitchen that you cook in. You got an entertainment room that you entertain in. You have the bathroom that you relieve yourself in. You have a bedroom that you sleep in. You're not going to use the restroom in the kitchen, right? You're not going to cook in the bathroom. You're not going to entertain somebody in your bedroom. I mean, I guess depending on who you're entertaining, right? But you get what I'm saying. Each room has its purpose. The same is for business entities, all right? Most people who are knowledgeable and who probably had the right consultation with them, they have the right side of this structure, the operations, the business structure, the planning of it, right? Anybody ever heard of an LLC? Yes, it's a limited liability company. Now, a limited liability company is great because what I like about financial services, and one of the reasons that I was able to pass all of these exams so quickly, is because it's very important information, but they're not that creative when they come up with the names. The names tell you exactly what it does. A limited liability company is a company that limits your liability. What it doesn't do so well is mitigate your taxes effectively. So yes, if you're doing business with the general public, making active income, and your business does something that it might be considered liable, this is going to limit your liability to what you have in the business to where it won't adversely affect your personal assets. But once again, it's not so good with taxes. So anybody ever heard of a single member LLC? Single member LLCs are great, but once again, it's treated like a pass-through entity. So what Ross taught me was, instead of having a single member LLC that has your personal name on it, what you should do is have a single member LLC that's owned by a holding company. A holding company that does no direct business with the public, and this holding company is going to be an LLC treated as S-corp. Why do we do LLC treated as S-corp? Because you don't have to deal with all of the different minutiae and red tape of it being an actual S-corp, but you get the tax benefits of an S-corp. Does anybody know the benefit, one of the main benefits of having an LLC treated as S-corp? Anybody? The main benefit of having an LLC treated as S-corp is because it allows you to separate your active income and your passive income. Why do you want to do that? Because if you have all of this money coming in, let's say you made $500,000 for the year, they're going to treat that all as active income. The disadvantage of having that treated as all as active income, because approximately the first $162,000 that you earn under that LLC is going to get taxed twice. You're going to have to pay income tax, and you're going to have to pay what's called self-employment tax. Self-employment tax is made up of your Social Security requirement and your Medicare requirement, right? Does anybody know that as long as you've made at least $4,000 a year for at least 10 years in your past, that you've already fully funded your Social Security and Medicare? If you made at least $4,000 a year for the past 10 years, and it doesn't have to be like back to back, it can be 1 year. 1 year I did 4,000. A couple years ago I did 4,000. You're already fully funded, so all the extra money that you're pulling into it is like gravy. And listen, I know there's probably some red-blooded Americans here that understand that taxes are necessary, but even when I come across those red-blooded Americans that say, hey, we have to pay taxes, I'm going to ask you one question. Do you believe that the government is handling your tax dollars appropriately? If you can find an effective way to mitigate your taxes by the entity that you have, that different room in your house, right? If you can find a way to mitigate it to where you're going to keep majority of those voluntary taxes that you were paying, but not because you're selfish, because you're going to give to the charities that you know, like, and trust. You're going to be able to give to the people that you know, like, and trust. You can make sure that that almsgiving that you do is actually being managed correctly. So what we do is we separate your active income from your passive income. So let's use that example. Let's say you're somebody that made $500,000 for the year. We might just say, all right, yes, this business brought in $500,000. However, only $40,000 of it was income, a salary. I'd rather pay taxes twice on just $40,000 than up to $500,000. And some people are going to say, no, you're only limited to up to the first approximately $162,000. Yes, that used to be the case, but what they did was your self-employment tax is 15.3%. 2.9% of that is for Medicare. After you hit that limit, yes, the Social Security stops, but the Medicare keeps going. If you are a married couple, once you exceed $250,000, they're going to add an additional 0.9% on that 2.9% on every dollar you make if it's not structured correctly. If you're a single person, once you hit 200,000, and don't be a married couple filing separately, they're going to add that extra money on top of 125,000. Just so you know, us financial advisors, when you're married, filing separately, the government treats you like a leper. Because they say, hey, you entered into this contract to where it's supposed to benefit you, but you're choosing to act as if you're single. All right, we're going to cut this in half for what you would have gotten if you were doing this as married filing jointly, okay? So after we put this single member LLC owned by a holding company, treated as S corp that does no business with the public, we legally avoided taxes as much as possible, because tax evasion is illegal. Tax avoidance is completely illegal. So we completely avoid taxes as much as possible. Now we're going to go to the other side of this chart that most people don't have, the family bank. We're going to make what's called a capital contribution to your family bank. Most people have never heard of an LLLP. You can reach out to your CPA right now and say, hey, what's a limited liability, limited partnership? They're going to say that doesn't exist. Yes, it does, right? What's the benefits of having a limited liability, limited partnership? What it does is it allows you to separate limited partners from general partners. Anybody that knows about limited partners and general partners, you understand that the limited partners, yes, you get to reap the benefits of the money coming in, but you don't have to take on any of the liabilities, right? So guess who's going to be the 99% general owner of your family bank, that LLLP? It's going to be your holding company treated as S corp. Guess who's going to be the 1% general partner of your LLLP? It's going to be your family trust. All right? Now, this limited liability, limited partnership is very important that it's domiciled in the right state. Has anybody ever heard of jurisdiction shopping? What jurisdiction shopping says is just because you live in a state, that does not mean that you're limited to only getting what that state offers. Because we all know huge companies that have their home office in one state, but they're domiciled in another state. What's the reason that they do that? Taxes and liability. They're going to go with the state that gives them the best tax mitigation and liability mitigation. Us as small business owners, the people who make up the majority of the businesses in the United States, we are allowed to do the same thing. So you're going to want to make sure that it's domiciled in the right state. Now, the state that a lot of people domicile their family bank in, their limited liability, limited partnership, is Wyoming. It's a lot of reasons why they domicile these companies in Wyoming, but the main reason is charging orders versus foreclosure. There's a legal remedy. Whenever you get accused of being liable for something, right? The legal remedy is we're either going to do charging orders or foreclosure, right? It's saying, hey, you just lost this $1 million lawsuit, Mr. Company Owner, and you owe X amount of dollars, all right? And if you don't pay it, we can foreclose on your assets in order for you to basically take care of this financial responsibility that you have, all right? What if you're in a state that only does charging orders? What it does is say, hey, it's multiple fold of what ends up happening. If somebody wants to sue you, they're going to go to their attorney, and their attorney, if they're able to find it, because another benefit of domiciling your business in Wyoming is your name isn't publicly on it. Your address isn't publicly on it, right? But let's say that they do find your company that's domiciled in Wyoming, right? Soon as the attorney sees that, if they know what they're doing, they're going to go from working on contingency to say, hey, you need to pay a retainer. I got a lot of attorneys in this room. What's the reason that you would only require a retainer than contingency? You don't know if you're going to win the case. Matter of fact, you might know for a fact that even if you win, there's nothing that's going to basically make somebody required to pay that money out. right? And here's the thing. Now you get what they call another chance to negotiate. We had a lot of negotiation talks here today. So what you're able to say, let's say that somebody does pay an attorney on retainer, right? And let's say that they do win this judgment against your company. That's when you can go back and say, hey, my bad, right? I was liable. But here's the thing. You understand that my business is domiciled in Wyoming. And you understand because it's domiciled in Wyoming, the judge was only able to issue a charging order. And you understand because it's domiciled in Wyoming and the judge was only able to issue a charging order that I don't have to take any distributions from my company. I can borrow from my company forever if I wanted to. And that's not considered a distribution. So that being said, yes, you just want $1 million judgment, but if you're willing to sign a release, let's settle for like $100,000, right? Once again, it's all about knowing how you do this. Now, a lot of you're probably getting to the age where your wife is budgeting you to try to create some type of estate plan. The benefit of having your holding company treated as S corp, be the single member owner of all your active income producing LLCs and your limited liability limited partnership, domiciled in the right company, being the single member owner of all of your passive income and entities. What we do is, not publicly, but in your operating agreements, convey the ownership to your family trust. What that just did is not only did it mitigate your liability, because here's what happens. All of y'all are probably super protected if your business harms somebody. What if you're driving down the road one day and you hit a car and a baby dies? And now you personally are now liable probably for $1 million plus. That just crumbled your entire thing. Because guess, even though if your business did something wrong, the way you have everything set up, if you do something personally, that just crumbled your whole cookie, right? So what we do is, not only do we have a lot of the entities that have inherent liability, such as land, and what I mean by inherent liability, even if you own a piece of land, if somebody comes into your land, trips and falls, you could potentially be liable, right? So you want to make sure that all of your inherent liabilities are owned by your family partnership. But guess what else we're going to make the owner of your assets? Your savings account is going to be owned by your limited liability limited partnership. Your other assets are going to be owned by your LLP. Your life insurance policies are going to be owned by your LLP. So guess what? If you ever get deposed and say, hey, Mr. Johnson, do you have any savings accounts? No. Do you have any bank accounts? Any checking accounts? No. Do you have any other assets owned by you? No. And you couldn't say that because you as an entity, a person, do not actually own those. The other entity does, all right? So not only does this limit your liability, not only does this structure mitigate your taxes, but it also sets it up to where you can avoid probate. Because the reason why probate exists for a multitude of reasons, but what ends up happening is a dead person cannot sign agreements. So when a person owns all of these things, let's say your husband owns all of these things, or your wife owns all of these things, and then they die suddenly, who's going to sign for it? Because even though you're married, if you do not have a financial power of attorney in place, if you do not have a medical power of attorney set up, you can't make these moves. Because what happens if your husband is incapacitated? And now you need to access his qualified retirement account. You're going to say, hey, my husband was just involved in an accident. He's incapacitated. We're going to have to move him to another facility. In order for me to move him to this other facility, I need to get to this money. That's when your husband's financial advisor is going to say, oh, okay, I'm sorry to hear that. So just send me the death certificate, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all this set up. He's like, no, I'm sorry, you didn't hear me correct. He's not dead. He's incapacitated. And then it's when he's going to say, oh, so do you have the durable financial power of attorney? No, what do you mean? We're married. Well, I'm sorry, unfortunately, unless he's dead, you don't have access to this. And then you're going to have to go through this whole process in minutia, all right? So this is the structure. If you want like, more details on how this structure is set up and talk more about it, please text Legacy 24, no spaces, no dashes, to 904-822-4262. Legacy 24 to no spaces, no dashes to 904-822-4262. All right, so let me get into this part, all right? So a lot of you are getting close to Social Security, or you're probably already collecting Social Security. And I'm going to say something, and I don't know if this is still true with our generation or not. I work with a lot of people who are 60 plus years old, and they had no idea that their Social Security was going to get taxed. Is there anybody here that did not know that you're going to get taxed on up to 85% of your Social Security? It's going to happen if you don't have your income coming in the right way. So I want to do a trivia question. Here's two different married couples. One, and we're going to do $500,000 in investments. Now, I know there's some people in here, y'all earning $500,000 plus a year. But so if you're earning more than this, extrapolate higher. If you're earning less than this, extrapolate lower, okay? So here's the trivia question. Both married couples have $500,000 in investment. Both of them draw approximately 5% from their investment accounts. The investment accounts have an average return of 6% and inflation adjustment of 3%. So that 5%, they're both taking out $25,000. They're both getting a return of $30,000. And they both have that inflation adjustment of 3%. And they're all the same age. However, at the age of 78, John and Mary have a negative $12,143. However, Joe and Donna have $1,132,964. Does anybody know how that happened? It's because they had their money coming to them in the right way. All right? Who's the worst business partner? What if I told you, I think I heard somebody say that. What if I told you, Angela, let's go into business together. But I want you to come up with all of the ideas. I want you to form all the right business relationships. I want you to reply to all the emails. I want you to fill out all the forms. I want you to sweat and bleed to get this business built and big. And then once we're ready to get out of it, I won't have it. Is that a good business partner? Who did I just describe?
Government.
Absolutely, that uncle. Right? So I'm probably about to, touch some nerves. But an IRA is just an IOU. Okay? Would you like to pay the most possible taxes on your retirement accounts or the least possible taxes on your retirement accounts? All right? There's a lot of you have 401ks, a lot of you have IRAs, 403bs, all the deferred comp plans. All right? So I'm about to explain how that works, okay? This person, that first couple, how they ended up broke was they had to do what's called required minimum distributions. Now, some of you feel like, all right, I'm about to be real smart. I got all of this money over here, but I'm going to keep these accounts that charge me taxes. I'm not going to even pull from it. I'm gonna keep that for my family for when I die, but I'm going to pull from here. The government said, oh, no. We can't let you do that. Once you hit the age of 72, we want you to have what's called required minimum distributions. And what is that doing? That's causing taxable income to come into your situation each year. And because you have that taxable income coming into your situation, it's causing your Social Security to be taxed. So total taxes on the required minimum distribution withdrawal is $164,337. The taxes paid on the growth from the reallocated, because once you take it out, you're going to put it somewhere. Now you're going to pay approximately $67,338. The taxes paid on the remaining required that retirement account is $106,665, and that comes to a total of $338,339. Or once you know better, you do better. You rip the Band-Aid off. You go ahead and take care of the tax obligation. Because here, y'all probably run into a lot of people that say they're going to help you pay $0 in taxes once I meet you. My goal is to get you there legitimately, but when I first meet you, we're going to have to rip a Band-Aid off, all right? So using that $500,000 example, I'd rather you pay $125,000, rip the Band-Aid off and get it in the right vehicle than keep prolonging it. And once again, we're just doing this on $500,000. Some of you have a lot more money, so just extrapolate higher, okay? So you got a crossroads. And this is how it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I help people do that. So first I need to ask, is there anybody here who hates when people find legitimate ways to avoid taxes? You hate it. What's the reason you hate it?
Oh, legitimate ways.
Listen, I appreciate that. Here's the thing. Don't be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't accept something better. A lot of you want everybody to pay, quote unquote, their fair share of taxes. What if I can tell you that you can learn how to do what they're doing? Right? Is that not better? All right, so I have what's called the Miracle Money Vehicle, and that's just my branding that I put on it. My mentor, Doug, another mentor of mine, he calls it the Laser Fund. You have other people that call it different things. I call it the Miracle Money Vehicle, money infinitely reproducing a compounded liquid estate, right? Because here, from most important to, least important, you want your money to be liquid, you want it to be safe, you want it to have a good predictable rates of return, and you want it to be tax-free. Most people jump straight to number 3. They say, oh, this is going to earn me, X amount of percent per year. But it don't matter how much it's earning you. If you can't get to it, what does it matter? A lot of you are under the age of 59 and a half contributing to a qualified retirement account. If you can't get to it without being penalized and taxed, what does it matter? A lot of you have money in your house. I work with a lot of people that are house rich and cash poor. Because it doesn't matter how much the appraiser says equity is in your house. If you can't find somebody to buy it at that amount, or you can't find a bank to refinance it at that amount, it means nothing. It's not liquid. Liquid, according to most people's definition, is you're able to get to it in 1 to 3 days. And guess what? When you need the money the most, that's when you can't get to it, right? You also want your money to be safe. After it's liquid, after you can get to it within 1 to 3 days, you want it to be safe, right? Now, just because it's safe doesn't mean that it's the best vehicle. Because guess what? If you put your money directly into a savings account, it's safe, right? But it's earning less than 1% interest. And I know some of you now, I have a high yield savings account, it's earning 5. All right, okay, cool. It's still taxable, right? It's still earning less than what it could, right? So yeah, it's one thing for it to be liquid, but you want it to be safe. Because guess what? I don't even have to see any of your 401ks or your 403bs or any of your qualified retirement accounts. But I can tell you right now, if you were to print out your performance from when you first started it to now, your principal has been dropping an average of 30 to 40% every 3 to 4 years. I can tell you that right now. I can bet you any amount of money, if you do that, it's dropping 30 to 40% for the past every 3 to 4 years. And the reason why it seems like it's growing is because you're actively contributing to it. Talk to anybody who's left a job that they stopped contributing to it and tell me if it's still growing. It's not, right? The only reason it's growing is because you're actively contributing to it. So yes, you want it to be liquid. You want it to be safe, but you also wanted to have a good rate of return, all right? Now, once again, if you got it in a savings account, it's earning less than 1%. Average inflation is 3% per year. Now, we've been dealing with hyperinflation. But let me tell you, if you have $100 in a savings account that's earning less than 1%, and inflation, which is the cost of the goods that you need in order to survive, is going up at least 3%, is your money worth the same, more, or less a year later? Less. Because you can buy less with it. Who ever heard the story of the talents in the Bible, right? Putting your talent in the ground is like putting your your money in the savings account. You're not creating a current. Money, words aren't an accident. Money is called currency for a reason. It's meant to keep moving. What happens when water stops moving? It becomes stale. Are you going to drink stale water? Do you want your master to return and say, you wicked? Like, that's the word. You just called me wicked. I tried to save the money for you, right? It's a lot of people who are called talented. That's where that comes from. Money used to be called talented. I know a lot of talented people, but they're not monetizing, right? You need to make sure that it keeps moving, and you need to create your own current. Now, once you got it in something that's liquid, once you have it in something that's safe, once you have it in something that has good, predictable rates of return, now you want it to be tax-free. Because what's the point? I can get to it. It's safe. I can go to sleep at night and not wake up, and my principal will be worth 40% less. It has a good rate of return, but as soon as I try to get to it, the government wants half, at least. All right? So here's how we're going to do it, all right, y'all? So I'm going to tell you exactly what vehicle I put it in, but I do need a little bit of participation. Does anybody know what creative things that you can do with baking soda? Anybody? Can I get some answers?
Brush your teeth.
You can brush your teeth, clean. Oh, the refrigerator for the odors, right?
Neutralize acid.
Say what?
Neutralize acid.
You can neutralize acid, mouthwash, teeth whitener, deodorant, fridge odor neutralizer, air freshener, whitening agent for laundry, kitchen cleaner, garbage odor eliminator. What nobody said is what it was actually made for. Don't think about what it is. Think about what it does. If I told you that there was something that you can put your money in and it grows tax-free, as long as you accept it correctly, you can utilize it tax-free. And when you die, it blossoms and passes to your heirs tax-free. What would you call that? A miracle. Did you know that exists? But it's just called life insurance. Don't think about what it is. Think about what it does. Now, I'm going to get into, some of you have already heard this before, and some of you say, I was sold a whole life policy, and I've been hating that decision my whole life. I'm going to explain to you how it should work, okay? But let me ask y'all a question. Do y'all think the future tax rates are going to be lower, the same, or higher? Higher. Some smart people, right? This is the way most people have their finances set up. Most people have their finances set up to where a majority of it is taxable, and then approximately 20% of it is, last in, first out, LIFO. The interest growing on it is taxable, all right? But this is the way it should at least be set up. At least 40% of the money that you're putting aside to be able to retire should be tax-free. The way that you can do that, once again, is with a properly structured life policy. So let's look at this. I want to show y'all what taxes does to your plan, all right? $1 compounded 20 times. Like, so 1 turns to 2, 2 turns to 4, 4 turns to 8, 8 turns to 16. And just 20 times of compounding, $1 turns into $1,048,576. But what happens if you apply a 25% tax rate? Just a 25% tax rate, that $1 million just decreased to $72,000 approximately. And I know a lot of y'all are in a higher tax bracket. Congratulations on choosing the right industry. What if you are at a 33% tax rate? That same dollar just turned into $27,362, all right? One of the benefits of a max-funded index universal life policy, so I'm going to be talking about a max-funded index universal life policy. Notice I didn't say universal life. Notice I didn't say variable universal life. Notice I didn't just say index universal life. I said a max-funded index universal life. It's tax-free, and it has protection from market losses. It's using indexing. Now, a lot of times when you say indexes, people that, oh yeah, I put my money in the indexes. Yeah, over time it's that, and third. No, I'm not saying, when I say indexing, we're not putting your money directly in the indexes. We're just using the index as a measuring stick, right? What are Warren Buffett's 2 rules of investing? Don't lose money. Y'all see what number 2? Don't forget rule number 1. So we've already talked about this, and I'm about to say something to y'all. And once again, if you go to my YouTube channel, Florida Wealth, you will see me having workshops with people who are 65, 75 plus years old. And when I tell them this is the first time that they ever realized it. So if your money that you have into an investment, if it goes up 50%, cool, right? If it drops 50%, all right, we don't want that, but it did. It goes back up 50, okay, you just broke even. It drops 50, dang, it goes back up. According to this, you just broke even, correct? Wrong. So let's use $100,000 as an example, okay? Let's say it's 2 different people that has $100,000. One has their money put directly into the market. The other has their money in a life policy that's using the market as a measuring stick. If the market drops 50%, what's 50% of $100,000? $50,000. So if the market drops 50%, that person that has their money directly in the market just lost $50,000. They're at $50,000. The person who has their money in a life policy, they didn't earn nothing that year, but because it's in a properly structured max-funded life policy, they didn't lose nothing that year. So these are 2 different people. One still has $100,000, the other has $50,000. Let's say the market goes back up 50%. What a traditional financial advisor will tell you is that you just broke even. And either they don't know or they don't care to tell you the truth. What's 50% of 50,000? So if the market dropped 50% at 100,000, you just lost 50. But if it goes up 50% at 50,000, all you just earned was 25,000. You're still 25,000 in the hole. So these are real numbers, right? Some of y'all are, very good and into investments. These are the real numbers from January 2000 to March 2020. All right? So using that, what I just taught you, because in order to break even after you lose 50%, you actually have to gain 100%. Whatever you lost, you have to actually do double in order to break even. So let's look at this. In January 2020, the market went up 8.97%. But then over the next 3 years, there was a loss. So over those 3 years, you lost 43.59%. So let's just make it a flat number, 44%. If you lost 44%, how much do you need to break even? 88. But guess what? You had 4 good years that totaled 57.34%. Have you even broken even from what you lost? Absolutely not. But before you can even break even, the market went down again another 2 years. That totals 44.24%. Once again, you need approximately 88% to even break even. You haven't even broken even from the last time. But then, boom. Now we got 100 at 55.73%. Your friends who have their money invested directly in the market are going to be like, hey, I just made 57% this year. And they're going to say how much you just made. And I'm going to show you how much that you made, but I'm going to explain to you how you can still, you don't want to be that person that tries to belittle them. Try to educate them, but you can listen to them and smile, right? Because what if, and once again, this is what it looks like. If you need another graphic representation of what it looks like to earn 50, lose 50, earn 50, lose 50, this is where you'll be at. But what if you're following Warren Buffett's golden rules and you don't lose money? Now, a lot of these indexes that are connected to these life insurance policies are capped at 11%. And that's why a lot of people don't put money in life insurance policies, because they say, hey, why would I cap myself voluntarily at 11% when I could be earning way more money in the market? I just showed you. Because you're not losing, you're gaining, all right? So if we're using those same numbers, where you're getting, where you're earning when the market does good, and when the market does bad, you're not losing anything. You're not gaining anything, but you're not losing anything either. All right. So I'm going to show you real numbers. And for anybody that don't know, please take a picture of this. This is how you determine what your return on investment is. And the reason why I want you to take a picture of this, because I'm going to bring this up later, all right? The way that you determine how much money you gain is you take the end date value minus the beginning date value. And then you take the difference, and then you divide the difference by the beginning date value, and that's your percentage. That's how much you earned on your money, okay? So let's use some real numbers, all right? In February of 2019, the market was at $2,779.83. And then the following year, it went to $3,370.29. So that's a difference of $590.46. And then you divide that difference by the beginning value, and then you see a change of 25%. So somebody that had their money invested directly in the market, you just made 25.9%. If you have your money in a life policy that's in an index that's capped at 11%, all you made was 11. All right, well, you know, you can't win them all, right? But let's go to the following month. March, it was at $2,808.48. And then March 22, it was at $2,386.83%. That's a difference of a negative $421.65. You divide that by the beginning value, that same person that just made 25%, and remember, they probably haven't even broken even from the last adjustment. They just lost 15%. But guess what? You lost nothing. It keeps going. Now, let's say, once again, you already know how this works, but let's say the market drops. So just so you know, life insurance policy does not just have capped indexes. Now, we also have uncapped indexes, right? Now, an uncapped index is great, but the participation rate is at least 5%. The reason why we don't put all of your money in an uncapped index is because what if the market only does 7% that year? And now you got to get charged a 5% participation rate. We don't want that to be the norm for you. We want you to experience the full benefit of having a properly structured life policy, right? But let's say the market drops. That's when I'm going to hit you up and say, hey, the market just dropped. What I'm doing is I'm switching all of my accounts from the capped to the uncapped. What do you want to do? That's when you're going to say, I'm going to do what you want to do, Randolph, right? So using this example, the market earned 64.8%. And once again, remember, a lot of these people, even though it was just a banging year, they still haven't broken even from the last adjustments. You, with your money in a policy, you're going to earn 59.8 because after we take what the market did and then subtract the participation rate, that's what you just earned tax-free. Imagine having $1 million in one of these properly structured index universal life policy and you just earn over 50% tax-free in 1 year. That's $500,000 tax-free 1 year. And what I'm saying is not unheard of. It's happening. All right? But once again, this is not your fault, man. We all have our own genius, right? Sean is great at handling claims. Public adjusters were great at taking care of the duties after a loss. Mr. Ziani out there, he's a genius at making suits. We all have our own genius. If you didn't learn this until today, it's not your fault. You all got financial advisors. You all got insurance agents. You all have bankers. And there's only one of two reasons why they never told you this. Does anybody know? Either they didn't know or they didn't care to tell you. Which one do you prefer? So once again, you wanted the three greatest strengths. This is tax-free. You have protection from market losses, and you have access to your money. Now, one thing that deters people is because they don't have the education or they have a negative connection to the term borrowing. But you want to borrow money instead of withdraw it. There are three ways to get money out of a life policy: the sad way, the dumb way, and the smart way. The sad way is you put up $100 and you get $1 million policy and you get hit by a bus the next day. You just got money out of your policy. It's a good return on your investment, but it's a sad way to do it. right? That's the sad way. What about the dumb way? The dumb way is to go and surrender your policy or withdraw money. Some people, you probably were dealing with the wrong financial advisor and they put you in a whole life policy. And remember, insurance, they're not that creative. The reason why they call it a whole life policy is because you're paying for it your whole life. The way I structure these max funded index universal life policy, you're done paying within 4 to 5 years, right? But let's say you want to get out of that, instead of just, and once again, I'm not going to, if you decide, I'm going to mention what's called a 1035 exchange. A lot of you are familiar with 1031 exchanges when you come to real estate, but just so you know, don't feel bad if you got like a whole life policy or index policies that aren't structured correctly. It's not the end of it. We can do what's called the 1035 exchange and get you under me and we can get everything situated, right? But let's say you are borrowed from a policy. The reason why you want to borrow is because when you look at the front end of your tax return, you have passive income, active income, and portfolio income. Nowhere on your tax return does it say borrow income, right? The reason why your Social Security is getting taxed is because you have other income coming from other places and they feel like you don't deserve to have all of this Social Security that you've been contributing to your entire life. No, we want to get it straight up. So here's how it works, y'all. So when you have money in your policy and you borrow against it, I call it twin babies. And who doesn't like twin babies, right? Because what happens is when you borrow money out of your policy, you're not actually borrowing your money. They're using your money as collateral to give you other people's money. And guess where that other people's money is coming from? From those savings accounts. All right? So when they come into those savings accounts, they give the savings account people that less than 1%. That's your part for participating in this. And then they loan you the money, let's say at a 5% interest rate. Now, the good thing about a max funded index universal life policy that's different from a whole life policy is when you borrow from it, whatever interest rate they charge you, they're going to automatically credit you the same amount to buy upside options. I don't know if anybody knows what upside options is, but basically you're paying a little bit of money to have the option to make a purchase. So let's say each share is $50 a share. You're saying, hey, I want to have the option to buy this at $50 a share no matter what happens. And let's say the share goes up to $150 a share. You go ahead and execute that option, and then you can get the difference in return. Okay? So here we have accumulated value and surrender value. So let's say you have $1,100,000 in your policy, right? And you borrow $100,000. So now you have a policy loan of $100,000. Once again, everything that you borrow, you don't have to pay back until after you die. Because what they do is they take whatever your death benefit is and they subtract what you borrow, all right? So now your available cash value is $1 million because you remember you started at 1.1 billion and then you borrowed 100,000. Now it made your available cash value down to $1 million, but your accumulated value is still 1.1 billion. That means the next year your money that's earning interest is going to be earned off 1.1, not what's left in there. And with that 10% growth, by the next year, your accumulated value is going to be $210,000. And guess what? You're going to do it all over again that next year. You're going to borrow money, another $100,000 out of your account. And it's not considered income because you're borrowing, right? And let's say you have a 4.5% interest loan on that interest rate. So really, what just came out of what you borrowed was $104,500. And once again, you do not have to pay this back until after you die. A lot of you, and my time is running short, but I just want to give you a quick analogy, okay? A lot of you, who's here has ever owned a quadruplex? Or any, multiple units, right? What it is, what if I told you that you can keep all of the income that you earn from tenants tax-free as long as you only fill it up according to TEFRA, DEFRA, and TAMRA. TAMRA, TEFRA, and DEFRA. And I know what you're thinking. And no, this is not the name of the supporting cast from the beloved 90s sitcom, Moesha.
That's good.
Thank you. It's Internal Revenue Codes 1018, 72E and 7702. As long as something is considered a life policy, it grows tax-free, 72E. As long as you access the money correctly, you can utilize it while you're alive tax-free, 7702. And when you die, it blossoms and passes to your heirs tax-free. So as long as you do this and you follow those guidelines, everything after 5 years is completely tax-free. The only way that this could hurt you is if it won't hurt your family, right? But if you die during these first 5 years. But if you expect that maybe it's a possibility that you might live for another 5 years, then it is what it is, all right? And this is just another visualization of how it works, right? And take this picture, because the benefit of having a whole life policy, you get that 2% floor, you get that no lapse guarantee, but it's strict, it takes longer to fund, the borrowing interest is not credited, it's designed primarily for death benefit, and typically a fraction of the net internal rate of return. Anybody here that has a whole life policy, what I want you to do, that screen where I showed you how to figure out the difference of how much money you earned in the stock market, I want you to take all the money that you put into your whole life policy today, and then I want you to take how much money that you have in cash value, and I want you to do that same algorithm to determine how much you earn. The only way that you can earn 5% is if you started your whole life policy when you were 30, and then now you're 90 years old. That's the only way that you're going to get an internal rate of return of 5%. I'm telling you, I've never seen any of your whole life policies. I've never seen any of your 401ks, but I know exactly what it looks like, all right? If you have a properly structured max funded index universal life policy, you can be averaging that 8 to 11% every year. And I just told you what a 1035 exchange, and I'm going to close with this. Has anybody ever seen a Chrysler 300? I mean, I love the Chrysler 300. I remember when I was a kid, I grew up in a low middle class neighborhood. The Chrysler 300, whenever it would pass by, we would stop what we were doing, we would watch it pass by, and we would say, that looks just like a Bentley. That looks just like a Bentley. Until one day when I grew up, I'm walking in a parking lot, right? And not only did I see a Chrysler 300 and a Bentley parked right next to each other, they were both back then and they were both the same color. It was at that very moment that I said a Chrysler 300 looks nothing like a Bentley. Listen, I've taught this and told this to multiple people, and I've had multiple people tell me that. I've had multiple people try to explain this to me, and you're the first person that made it make a little sense. All of y'all know somebody that has a life insurance license. And y'all gonna reach out to your sister, your brother-in-law, your niece, your nephew, and say, hey, I finally understand. I want you to set me up one of those IULs. But I'm gonna let you know, IUL is just a tool. It's just a tool. If I told you that you can either get Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson's club or their golf swing, which would you take? It's about the swing, not about the tool. Listen, a Chrysler 300 is a great car. It can get you from A to B, but wouldn't you rather be in a Bentley? Hey, my name is Randolph Love III. I do have a book coming out. Please text, if you want to get that book for just the cost of shipping and handling, text franchise 24, no spaces, no dashes, to 904-822-4262. I'll get that autographed copy to you. It's going to be done next month, so go ahead and get it now. Thank you for attending.
Great presentation, Randolph.